Pay off the mortgage before you retire, or invest the money instead. Same dollars, same house, same you. But get this wrong, and you can hand back tens of thousands of dollars or trap your own savings inside your four walls at the exact moment you need cash the most. Everyone has a gut answer. Almost no one runs the one number that actually decides it. Picture the check, $200,000 sitting in an account and a mortgage still hanging over the house. One move wipes the loan out tomorrow. No more payment. The place finally, fully yours. The other leaves the loan right where it is and sends that cash into the market to grow. Both feel responsible. Only one of them is actually right for you. Before we score anything, one ground rule. Hold everything equal except the decision itself. Same house, same $200,000, same paycheck standing behind it. That way, when a winner emerges, it's the choice that won, not a rigged example. And the referee here is arithmetic, not whatever your brother-in-law swears by at the Thanksgiving table. And I want you to know, this isn't some fringe problem for people who planned badly. The old world, where everybody burned the mortgage before they retired, that world is gone. 30 years ago, about a quarter of homeowners between 65 and 79 still carried a mortgage. Today, it's more than 4 in 10. Among people 80 and older, it went from 3% to 31%. Mortgages are now roughly 3/4 of all the debt held by Americans over 70. If you're staring at this choice, you are not behind. You're the majority. And I'll be straight about where I stand. Nowhere. I don't care which way you go. Some of you should throw every spare dollar at that mortgage. Some of you would be making an expensive mistake by doing it. The whole job today is figuring out which group you're actually in. Start with the case for killing the mortgage, because it's stronger than the internet usually admits. When you hand the bank your last payment, you lock in a guaranteed return equal to your interest rate. Not a hoped-for return, not an average, a guaranteed one. Every dollar of principal you retire earns you that rate, risk-free, for the life of the loan. And right now, that guaranteed number is not small. With mortgage rates sitting around 6.5%, paying yours down is a risk-free 6.5% return. And that quietly beats the safe alternatives most retirees actually use. A high-yield savings account is paying maybe 4.5%. A CD, around 4.8%. A bond, roughly 4.3%. So dollar for dollar, against anything safe, the payoff wins going away. Put a real number on that. Say you still owe $200,000 at 6.5%. Paying it off is like handing yourself about $13,000 a year, money that would otherwise leave your account as interest, gone for good. There is no safe, government-boring investment on the open market paying you that right now. That's what a guaranteed return equal to your rate actually feels like in dollars. There's a second dividend, and I won't pretend it doesn't matter. The feeling. No payment. Nobody with a lien on your front door. The particular kind of sleep you get when the house is simply yours. For plenty of people, that feeling outweighs any spread on a spreadsheet, and I won't argue them out of it. It's a real return. It just never shows up in dollars. But here's the honest price tag. 2 things. The first is opportunity cost, the return you give up by not investing, and we'll size that in a minute. The second is quieter, and it's the one almost nobody warns you about. The moment that money goes into the walls, it stops being money you can reach. Hold that thought. That's round 1 on the board. Certain, calming, and it turns out, not free. Now flip it. Leave the mortgage exactly where it is. Invest the $200,000, and let history do the heavy lifting. Over the long run, the S&P 500 has averaged about 10% a year. Your mortgage costs about 6.4%, so on paper you're pocketing the difference. A spread of roughly 3.5 points a year, compounding, for as long as the money stays invested. Over a couple of decades, that spread is the difference between a comfortable retirement and a rich one. That's a real argument, and the math is on its side. And let me show you the seductive version, because it's genuinely tempting. That same $200,000 left in the market at the historical 10% doesn't just sit there. Over 20 years, it can grow to roughly $1.33 million. The interest on your mortgage over that same stretch costs a fraction of that gain. On a napkin, it isn't even close. Now watch me subtract reality. That 10% is not a number you're handed each year. It's the average of a wild, jagged series. Some years it's up 30. Some years it's down 20. The mortgage, meanwhile, costs you exactly 6.4 whether the market soared or crashed. And when you eventually sell those investments, the government wants a cut of the gains. So the honest after-tax risk-adjusted edge is thinner than a napkin sketch makes it look. And if I only showed you that glossy 10% number, I'd be doing exactly what every stock-picking channel on this platform does. So let me argue against my own math for a second, because there's one force that can turn that beautiful average into a trap. It has a name, and it's what round 3 is about. Here's the one number I promised you. It isn't the 10%, and it isn't the 6.4 on its own. It's the spread between them, specifically your after-tax mortgage rate versus the return you can realistically, safely expect. Run that spread, and the decision mostly answers itself. If your rate is up around 6% or higher, paying it down almost always wins once you adjust for risk, because a guaranteed 6 is worth more than a maybe 7 you have to sweat for. If your rate is down under 4%, one of those pandemic-era loans, and you've got 20-plus years, investing usually wins, because a 5 to 7% real return leaves comfortable daylight over a cheap fixed loan. And between 4 and 6, you're in the gray zone, where the tiebreakers decide. Let me make that concrete, because it's the whole ball game. Picture two neighbors, each with the same $200,000 in cash. One locked a 3% mortgage back in 2021, the other refinanced into 6.5%. For the 3% neighbor, keeping the loan and investing is a genuinely smart bet. The spread is wide, and it's durable. For the 6.5% neighbor, that same spread nearly disappears the moment you adjust for risk and taxes, and the guaranteed payoff quietly takes the win. Same decision, same amount of money, opposite answers, and the only thing that changed was that one number. But there's a second dial on this decision, and in the red zone, it can outweigh the first. It's called sequence of returns risk. In plain English, when your bad years happen matters as much as whether they happen. If a nasty market run lands in the first few years you're drawing down your savings, it can erase a decade of expected compounding, and there's no time left to earn it back. So within about 10 years of when you'll start living off this money, the guaranteed return gets more valuable, not less. The certainty is the point. And let me kill one myth right here, because it steers a lot of people wrong. Most folks assume they're getting a fat tax break for keeping the mortgage, the interest deduction. For the vast majority of retirees today, that break is worth exactly nothing. After the 2017 tax law, the share of people who itemize collapsed from about 30% to 9%. The 2025 standard deduction is $30,000 for a married couple, closer to $47,000 once you're both over 65. If you take the standard deduction, and more than 9 in 10 of you do, your mortgage interest deducts nothing. Do not keep a loan for a write-off you never actually claim. So it sounds like the guaranteed payoff is running away with this. Not so fast, because the debt-free reflex hides a real danger, and it's the reason just pay it off can quietly make you less safe. Here it is. A paid-off house is net worth you cannot spend. You can't hand the emergency room a shingle. You can't buy groceries with a hallway. The day you pour your cash reserve into the mortgage to feel debt-free, you've converted your most flexible asset, money, into your least flexible one, a wall. And getting it back is slow and expensive. You can sell the house. You can do a cash-out refinance at today's higher rates. You can open a home equity line of credit, the same kind of credit line banks froze on people in 2008 and again in 2020, right when they needed it. Or you can take a reverse mortgage, with all the cost that carries. None of those is a debit card. Picture the retiree who did everything right, threw every spare dollar at the house, walked into retirement debt-free and proud, and then faced a roof, a health scare, and a soft market in the same year, with almost nothing liquid to meet it. House rich, cash poor, at the exact wrong moment. That's the trap. Which is why liquidity is the first tiebreaker on this whole decision. Ahead of the spread, ahead of everything. So let's bring the duel home. Here's who wins, and by how much. Lean toward paying it off when your rate is at or above the return you could safely earn, when you're within about 10 years of living off your savings, when you already hold a healthy cushion of cash, and when that monthly payment genuinely weighs on you. In that case, the guaranteed return and the protection from a bad market draw win, clearly. That's most people carrying a 6+% loan into their 60s. Lean toward keeping the loan and investing when you locked in one of those low, sub-4% rates, when you've got a long runway and plenty of liquidity, and, as a bonus, when you're one of the few who actually itemizes. There, the spread is real, durable, and worth keeping. And if you're stuck between them, here's the move most people miss. You don't have to choose all or nothing. Keep your cash cushion untouched. Then split the extra money, some at the mortgage, some into the market. You bank part of the guaranteed return and part of the upside, and you never end up house rich and cash poor. Here's what that looks like in practice. Say you've got that $200,000 and a 5.5% loan, dead center in the gray zone. You set aside a year or two of expenses in cash and don't touch it. Then you put, say, $100,000 against the mortgage and $100,000 into the market. You've shrunk your payment and your risk on one side, and you've kept a real shot at the spread on the other. It is not the mathematically perfect answer in any single version of the future, but across all the versions you might actually end up living in. It's the one that keeps you both safe and growing. And for a decision this permanent, that's usually the smarter kind of right. Because that's the real lesson under all the arithmetic. The biggest check you'll ever write shouldn't be written on a feeling. Run the spread. Protect your liquidity first. Take the guaranteed return second. And let what helps you sleep break any remaining tie. You only get to make this decision once, so let's make it right. One question before you go, and I genuinely like your answer in the comments. If you did pay the house off and later needed that money back, what's your plan to get it, and have you priced what that costs? Sit with that, because next, we're going to run the numbers on tapping your home equity in retirement, and the answer surprises almost everyone.